Welcome back to Word Blindness, Dyslexia Exposed. This is Juliette Hahn here with my co-host, Brent Sobel.
No, nothing. You're on your own today.
I was the lighting and sound police.
Dude,
I annoyed
seriously.
him. I couldn't help it.
Don't take your shit out on your husband and your kids on me. Like, we're not.
I totally was. Yeah, sorry. Okay, now I'm happy though. Just in case you're wondering.
Yeah, Grandma pulled out we got lights.
I know, she's the best.
We're like in some high professional studio now.
Well, Elizabeth asked me before. She's like, "How's the lighting?" And I was like, "It wasn't great last time, but we'll figure it out. We'll send like a ring light." And she's like, "Nope, I got it." And so,
well, actually, that we could kind of touch on that before we get into everything. As I mentioned, studio. Obviously, we got the
Telly Award, bronze.
You know what? What's it called? Telly
Awards.
Okay, good. Because I thought you said Kelly right there, and I was just going to application for a complete name change lawsuit.
Okay, no, Telly, T.
Yeah.
Yes, at Richter Studios, where we did the what did we call it? The PSA, public service announcement. That's on the website.
Yeah, and in December. So I think, what do you say in that email? There's 13,000 videos.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So obviously,
so good.
Mark did a great job put together in the studio, as well as obviously you coming in. Oh, that was the day where you had the best gas pumper ever.
Yeah, I know. That's when you did a little dance for us. Remember, my eyes kept watering. I had like a watering eye situation.
Yeah. And we had, obviously we had Logan, Peyton, Gavin, Ian, Jessica, part of it came in. And, obviously you flew in, appreciate it. Grandma was holding down the fort there, taking some photos and stuff. So it was a great day, but to be able to come out, I don't know if on top is the right word, but for the studio to win, the studio won, they put the application in. So it's not like, I had no idea. I hadn't heard from them since we paid them. That was the last time I had any communication. Funny how that works, eh?
Right.
But again, it was pretty cool to be one of the, over 13,000 videos to be recognized, and everybody who was a part of the video, yourself and Elizabeth didn't want to. Obviously Mark produced it, and so it was pretty cool.
It was very cool. And it really, anyone that sees it, they're like, wow, that's impactful. And so if you haven't seen it, go to thesobelfoundation.org. It's literally, you scroll down a half a second, depending on where what your computer screen is, or not a half a second, half an inch, whatever. It's right down. It's like the second thing on the website.
Well, half a second and half an inch are about the same thing with you.
Right. Jesus. Math. So, and you guys can check it out. It's awesome. And I was happy to be able to fly in. And that was that wasn't easy. That was not easy because I know how to talk off the cuff, or cusp, whatever the saying is. I can talk freely, but when you tell me, okay, this is, Mark was like, this is what I want you to say. And I was like, oh, well, I can't remember that. But it all, for everyone, even his wife. Remember, his wife was in it as well.
Yeah, no, she did a great job. It speaks to, actors or actresses that have to do the lines. Like, you're right. Elizabeth's like all the time, how can you go and speak for an hour and have nothing written down off the cuff, like you just said? No problem at all. But you hand me these notes, or gone. I'm done.
Gone.
And I had a call this morning with the Plumbers Union, here in Chicago. Obviously, they're the head sponsors for the Hockey with the Stars. He's like, all right, I want you to come to one of our union meetings and be on stage. I'd like you to acknowledge all the players, and I'll give you their names. I'm like, what? No, I'm not standing. I can stand on stage all day. I have a pretty face, but I said, now you want me to read Kennedy O'Shea, Shaughnessy, or they're I start panicking.
Totally. But I mean, this is not what the episode is about, and we have talked about that, but that is one of the things, again, people don't think about. When I first started a podcast and I was teaching people about podcasting, they're like, well, I write everything down in script, like how? And I was like, no, if I do that, I'm like, you're not authentic, right? Because your brain is trying to read something. And so you're not yourself.
Well,
and so it's a very interesting thing.
But, let's say that we're not authentic. Mm-hmm. They may be, because that's how their brain works. They can go that way.
That's what I would tell her. I would tell the people, I would be like, listen, if you feel more comfortable reading it, do that. You want to do what makes you feel most authentic. Yeah. That's public speaking, anything. You want to do what makes you feel most authentic. If someone says, hey, can you remember to add this into it? I'm thrown. I'm like, fuck. Because then it's like, it doesn't, I can do it, but I have to keep playing it in my head, like try to put it in at the same time instead of just speaking, which we are really good at.
And then when I did that, was it for the GED at graduation? Mm-hmm. I had to. I wanted to make sure I had a couple points, and every time I tried to make sure I had those points, I forgot everything else. Right?
Totally. It's so crazy, isn't it?
Go to the grocery store. I can't forget this. Can't forget this. I got this, but forget all the other 22 other things. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah, I mean, it's just interesting how the brain works, and if you think about it, it's really fascinating. And another episode, we're going to talk about dyscalculia and a situation that happened at the event. And we'll get into it, but it I think help people be able to be like, oh, I didn't think about that. And it's the same with words. When you're trying to hold on to something, it doesn't happen. But that's not what we're talking about today. That will be another episode, because I really want to dive into dyscalculia. So California.
You love this state.
I like the atmosphere of California, but some of the stuff that they're doing,
you would hug trees there. Like,
I know. I love the yogi and the mountains, and then
what are those shoes they wear? The Tevry or those?
The Tevas. Yeah, see, I'm not really a big Teva person or like a Birkenstock person. So I'm like crunchy, but not in my.
Grandma's got a Birkenstock, but it's not. It doesn't look. It's more stylish. It's it's not the typical Birkenstock.
No, well, my sister has them because they're in right now. And anytime I put Birkenstocks on, though, that's not for my. I look like Flood Flintstone. It's not a good look for me. It's not good.
Let's be clear. Move on.
What were you going to say? I want. No, it just is not an attractive.
The dresses that you picked for that one event.
Oh, Jesus Christ. You and Danielle. I'm not even, that was all that there was there. No. And I was like, I can try to make something work.
What was the dress of the brown? It wasn't a real house. It was a Mormon. That's what Elizabeth thought it was. Really?
Danielle had to share it. I was like, listen, I had like an hour to get I had to make a pick. I could not go out. It was the last minute thing. It was not a good idea. And I was like, can I pull this off? Clearly it was not. No, everyone hated it. Anyway.
What did Dan say to you?
He was like, it's not the most attractive, but like, whatever. See, now here's the thing. And I'm going to talk, and it's going to sound very egocentrical right now. But when in my prime, even as a younger person in my 20s, I could put just jeans and a tank top, t-shirt. And I did not I looked super stylish. As you get older, you can't just do that anymore. So that was my style. No, that was my style. And it was good. I could throw a dress on. It was easy. It was just like in my younger years. As I've gotten older, I know I have to fucking step it up. I've heard it.
Well, I don't think that was the case. You were going to some nice event, I think it was.
I was talking on the
so the jeans and t-shirt, whatever you're trying to sell yourself right now, you weren't wearing that when you're 25 either. So
this is true.
Right?
Is true. All right, whatever. I didn't have to put a lot of effort before.
Well, because
I wasn't doing
a skill. That's a skill to be able to put things together.
I'm terrible.
I'm more of a trendsetter, not a trend follower. People,
Yes.
I don't care. I don't have style. I don't put things together, and I don't give a fuck. But that's a skill.
It is a skill.
It really is. Or to be able to walk into a house like we talk about our house. To walk in, we saw the originals. So the people that we bought it from bought it 10 years ago and got it. And there was more, like it was ran down, and to be able to they got that skill. Paul and Sarai are their names. Great, awesome people. But to have the skills to walk into a house like that and know they're going to go do it like this.
Yeah.
I see what you see. Like if it's a pink wall or a purple wall or like, we saw the pictures. Like, damn, you wouldn't even know. We shared them with some people. We had no idea it was the same house.
Which is awesome.
That's a skill.
My sister has that, and my sister has the style skill. I did not get either. That's why I would hire an interior decorator or my sister.
and that's fine. It's where I was going to go. Going with everybody has that skill. Everybody's got a skill. Yeah. That is a skill, right?
It is
that is a skill to be able to go and cut coupons, right? The coupon shopper, grandma, like those are skills that people don't recognize. They take them for granted. And why I say that is we'll get into, the Gavin Newsom thing in California. Be proud of those things.
Yes. Oh, totally. Yeah. It's a strength.
It's a strength. Right? It's a skill. Mm-hmm. It's a strength. Yep. You're good at it. You're great at it. Be proud of that. It doesn't matter if it is, you're going to the grocery store and you're able to save money. That's a skill. That's a skill that people can have, that people need, that you have. Like, be proud of that. It's those little things that, go a long way. I had a call this morning before we get back in that topic about the event, May 17th event. All right. And they're like, no, blew away our expectations, and they're looking forward for next year and planning next year already and thinking it's amazing and all these kinds of things. And the details, obviously you talk about it.
You're great on details. Yep.
I said to him, I want everybody to feel special when they walk in there, because I never did. Right. It's, and the one gentleman said, I said, for long-term, we're trying to build something that's never been built in the world before. And I may spend a lot more money up front to make those details special, because if they feel special, they're going to come back. If they feel cheated, or if they feel where I could have cut corners and saved money for the foundation, but didn't make them feel as special, they're not coming back.
Mm-hmm. No, it's true. And to know these strengths and weaknesses, like, so if you didn't have those detail oriented, you would have to either have someone else help you, or it's not something you would go into. So like, I know if I'm going to do any big events, I need a stylist. And I'm okay with that, because I fucking hate shopping.
Hey, that's great. Me too. I like to wear my sweatpants, and I hate summertime. Because then it's going to be too hot for sweat. I like to, I'm like to hide, but
yes. So back to California and Birkenstocks. That is the thing. So yes, I like the mountains. I like the landscape of California. I feel very at home there. I like the mountains and the water. I'm not talking about the people. I'm talking about like just the air and the crispness in the morning. There's like a lot of different things that I like about it. However, there's things that I don't like about it, just like in any place. And what we wanted to talk about is that California is planning to implement a grade for equality. Okay. Now, I want everyone to think about this. As I'm speaking these words, I want you truly to listen.
Are you going to read it? Yeah.
I am going to read it, as I just looked at that. Okay. So grading for equality. Nope. Equity. Grading for equity program at, so it's SF United.
San Francisco United Schools.
Okay.
Unified Schools.
So this program will eliminate homework, eliminate weekly tests, allow for late assignments to hand in, allow students to skip class without affecting grades, making getting an 80 an A, allow students to pass with as grade as low as a 21. Now, someone might say, oh, Brent and Juliet, that sounds like you would be really excited about that, because that's taking the onus off of the students. And when I read this, I got pissed, because I was like, oh my God. And then I said to you, wait, I'm curious, because I was like, I think he's going to be pissed too, but then I'm also curious to know what your thoughts are. So why don't you go into your thoughts, since I just read that, and then we can explain why We got angry.
Gavin Newsom's a scumbag, piece of shit. He wants to claim he's dyslexic, right? Obviously, at one point in time, he talked about addiction not being a problem. It's always great to come home. So I have hatred for him for many different reasons. But eliminating homework, limiting weekly tests, allowing for late assignment hands-ins, allowing a student to skip class. Let's do that one first. Allowing students to skip class without affecting grade. So right before the election, President Biden they passed a bill of $250 million to try and keep kids in school.
And that's again, what they said the problem was. That's why they couldn't read anymore, because they were missing school.
Because they're missing school, right? And then I talked about my dyslexia, right? Is everything is pen and paper. I got pens, I got paper everywhere. Everything's written down. I got to write everything down. Anything important, we just get this massive box of paper from Amazon because I print everything, right? That's what I have to do. So anything important, I can't remember it off my phone, or I can't remember it off the computer. So just think of all the dyslexics like me, right? For COVID, if you're in that states where so they didn't learn for a couple of years. So you pass a bill for $250 million to keep kids in school. If a kid can skip school and not be in trouble,
why would we go to school?
Why would we go to school? Especially kids like us. Mm-hmm. Like, going to school was awful, right? Now you're going to give us a green light to get out?
So many thoughts.
It makes no sense. Like, again, school sucks for us, right? 100%. School's hard for us. School is not where we're meant to be. But giving us, or any high school kid, like, what high school kid wouldn't want to skip to go smoke pot or get laid?
Or just get lunch.
Who wouldn't want that?
Right.
Well, high school. Like, you got to protect kids from themselves sometimes. Mm-hmm. Right? You look back at the dumb things we did.
Oh my God. Uh-huh.
Right? And then you look at our kids, like, oh, how is that benefiting? So, but go ahead.
Well, no. So everything you just said. So here's the thing, because we did do an episode on that. We were like, oh my God, what about kids with anxiety, right? Kids are behind and now you're forcing them to be in school. And so you might be listening to this being like, well, how do you guys, like,
you're talking out both sides of your mouth.
Totally. Yeah. But we are not, because here's the thing. So, and again, this is always our opinion, but so like that forcing, right? Every kid. So that's like a whole blanket thing. It's not about, hey, well, let's check in with this person. Are they sick? Is there someone in their house, like their grandmother, that's sick, and this kid is the one that has to take care of them because the mom has to go to work, and now you're penalizing the parents for the kid missing, right? So like there's gray area, and everything in school is black or white, right? And so that is one of our big problems. It's black or white. So that first of all, that's where we were coming from. It's like also like, okay, there's some kids that have anxiety because, as you said, they're so far behind because of COVID, and now you're forcing them, and they're not being taught, and they're being called out and being in there, and now they're getting anxiety, and it's even worse, right? So that is like, okay, we understand though, but that message to kids is, we care and we're trying to change something. Because we did say, like, you know what? We understand what he's trying to do. We understand.
And full marks to it. Like, I don't care, Republican, Democrat, whatever side you fence. Full marks. Like, he was trying to do something, right? Okay. Right or wrong. There was an effort there. So I applaud that.
Exactly. There was an effort, and it showed, hey kids, we know that we're that things are not good. We're trying to figure things out. Was it the right approach? We disagree with the approach, but we understand the effort. A for effort, right? Okay. Now, what this is saying is, we know you're behind, and guess what? We don't give a fuck, and we're not going to try to teach you. We're just going to let you go and go even more fuck up. Think about the crime that this is going to cause. Think about, first of all, I do homework. I am okay with that part, because I do think a lot of times teachers just give homework that's not necessary.
You do homework?
No, right. That's right. I think homework is ridiculous. It's like, you're in school for 8 hours. Give these kids a little bit of a break. I think you can do some stuff, but like, I know my kids will sometimes get homework from teachers that the teachers didn't even teach them. So then they're
Right.
teaching themselves. And I'm like, fucking knock it off. Like that's,
Right.
or busy work. Like give a little more respect for these kids. Like you don't need to give them shit that's just like, hey, I'm doing it because I'm trying to do it. I know you have some stuff to say.
No, and I agree with that. I just to touch it. If you teach them about that, that homework assignment, I'm good with the homework. But don't give them homework for them to learn.
Right. Which a lot is done because
done. So
my kids be,
if you teach them about that assignment that day, whatever that is, and they didn't get it all done and homework, I'm good with that because you're teaching. But if you hand a kid here, whatever, go learn yourself. Why like Chicago Public Schools, we'll get like 20% of reading level. Now they're making over $110,000. What are you doing? Are you teaching? No, you're sending homework home to do it themselves. So what's your job?
Right. So this is where it is. It's basically giving the kids that, and I'm reading this again. It's basically saying we don't like, okay, now because we realize that COVID made us behind, right? Because this is what everyone's saying. I mean, I'm doing this in quotes. Look into YouTube.
And I call that bullshit.
Yeah. Maybe some kids are behind because of COVID. I'm not going to disagree with that, but we're talking about like dyslexic kids, which they're not talking about in here, but like you're lowering everyone's standard and basically saying we've given up on you and we don't give a fuck.
Right.
And that is
you're going to get paid to do nothing because how many kids, how many kids on a weekly basis do you think are going to show up if you can skip without it? So, again, obviously US is very different. Where I grew up in Canada we had 5 classes. Now they have like 8, 10, 12, like all these crazy. So, first, second, third classes, in the morning. I'd be sleeping my ass in. Why am I getting up?
Oh, I mean,
if I can hand in my homework late, which gets somebody to do it for me, right? Or like I don't have the weekly test, so I don't have to worry about missing that. Like there is zero incentive. And here's the question is, this goes right against everything because public schools, you have to be in school so many days.
180.
To get your money, right?
Yep.
Elizabeth's nieces, got lice, and the nurse is like, don't just let them come in because they want them at school to get their money. So how does California, Mr. Fake Dyslexic scumbag, how are they going to get their money? Where are they going to get money? Because they're not going to make the 180 days. I think you said 180 days. Yeah, there's no high school kid. I shouldn't say a small percentage of high school kids will make that, right? They're going to skip for, like you said, just for lunch. The first 3 classes, I'm going to sleep in, and it's not going to be a care because you're not going to miss homework. You're not going to miss it. You're really not. What are you missing when going there?
But also let's think about the teachers that actually really want to teach. This is now putting pressure on them, but then also think about the parents. Think about this is now also making another thing for parents to fight with their kids about. And that is like, hello, let's,
the teachers are getting paid.
Yeah,
they're
but
getting paid more than they're ever getting paid to do nothing now, because as it's said in there, as low as 21%.
Okay, but I'm going to throw this back on you. If you go into a profession and you're just getting paid and you're not being like I would lose my mind. Like I would be so fucking bored if I wasn't doing what I wanted to do. So I would not be happy that even if I was getting paid, I need to be stimulated. I need to be like excited what I'm doing. And that would not be it. So like, think about, there is going to be a percentage of teachers that are like, not like, that's fucked up for them too. It's also going to make their jobs harder because they're going to have more difficult kids. Maybe they have to show up sometimes. I don't know. Like this doesn't sound, it sounds like a whole shit show. I think there's so many questions and I would love.
There's a small percent of teachers that want to teach, that want to care. Right. I get on here all the time. Obviously, teachers aren't taught about us, so they don't understand us, and a good portion never try. So it plays right into their hand, right? How many of them? I'm tenured. I got all my vacation. You can't fire me, right? You got CTU, those Chicago Public Schools, right? The second biggest union. some of the biggest scumbags. They don't care. If they cared, they'd be higher than a 20% reading at grade level, right? So when I get on here, I'm doing a very broad statement, but I'll say that majority, there's going to be a small percentage of teachers that are going to be upset because they can't teach. The rest are going to be happening with $100,000 paychecks that, like some of these places are going to get. What? You don't have to have homework, so you don't have any of that out. You're not doing weekly tests, so you're not doing that. So it's a free for all, and I hear all the time.
Yeah, I would be bored out of my mind.
That parent that kids want things now, and COVID didn't put them back. They're all entitled fucks.
Did you just say all kids are entitled fucks?
Yeah, mine are. Like, they all think that they deserve this, right? We have to work for our things, right? There's none of that anymore. And what does this do to that, is what I'm saying. Yeah, that only fuels this fire even more. Like, gasoline is put on at times 10.
But it's also, I just think about the poor kids that have made efforts to get into school because they want to be there and they want to learn. And then it's also going to hinder them because they're going to be like, well, what the hell? Especially if the teachers, now I think it's a higher percentage of teachers that want to be there and that want to do it. And again, this is coming from above. Did Newsom ask any of the teachers, hey, do you think this is a good idea? No, we know that he didn't. So like, again, it's like the hierarchy of like these guys not having a choice, and they're the ones that are in the trenches and doing it. It's just like how we get all upset when it's like, okay, the scientists, again, I just sent you like a study on like ADHD and dyslexia. And it's like another thing that's been, and I was like, okay, we know about ADHD and dyslexia. We don't need to know anymore. We fucking know what it's all about. We know how the brain works. There's enough studies done. It is, seriously, those things are not getting to the kid in the chair. They're not getting to the trenches. It's all this stuff above that everyone's like, look, we're doing so many things because here's another study. Here's a fucking another study. But as we just said, California is at the worst state that they've ever been. I know New York is. And I think when I read this and I couldn't find it again, but I feel like there was something that I said that New York had already lowered their stuff last year. And it might've been just the city, but I know we couldn't figure something. I was like, maybe.
Yeah, I didn't, and I don't know. I saw that. I know Illinois,
I think Illinois. I think there was a couple other states around it.
You talk about it. Obviously, who runs those three states. It's it all comes down to who's you've got people lobbying for their thing. Comes down to money. Remember we talked about the UK getting rid of the word dyslexia in the whole country, right? Mm-hmm. Why? Now it's learning difference. Why? It's because it's cheaper. Everybody wants to go in and invest when that first stock comes out. Well, it's just whatever. Let's say Tesla, right? If everybody just wished, or Apple, if we would have just bought $100 worth, and when it first came out, what'd be worth now, right? We invested early. We invested. We believed. I don't see any of that in kids.
No, kids right now, I know back in the day, go ahead, finish what you're saying.
No, it's just, that's the future. And the reference to the stocks was you believe that it's going to grow. You believe that company is going to take off. You're going to believe it's going to go up and split. You believe all these things, right? So basically, you're looking at every kid, growing up, and we basically say, we don't believe in you. We believe you're not worth what X.
Yeah, and that is exactly what that's doing, and that is, it makes zero sense. Like, I would love to ask him questions just to hear what his stupid answer would be.
Her friend just moved there. I just clicked in. Yeah, I gotta ask her about that. Yeah, her friend just moved to San Francisco. Like, and let's go back to your daughter. Penelope loves to learn, right? She loves school. She loves to learn. She gets upset.
She said she doesn't love school, but yes, she loves to learn. Yes. And she, like, if a teacher's not teaching her, she gets tweaked.
Right,
It's
right.
like,
So
oh
let's
my God,
use
like,
her as
do your
an,
fucking job. Yeah.
they're yeah. Obviously, when we talk about here, we talk very broadly. We can't break it down, but there are students, like Penelope, that want to learn and that enjoy learning and stuff like that. Awesome. Is it going to affect them? 100%.
Yeah.
It's going to affect, I believe, in my mind, it's going to affect everybody negatively. And you made a good point. The crime that's going to be created.
Oh,
So as a dyslexic, it's easier for us to go down a bad path. Am I going to go here with these people learning, or am I going to go smoke some cigarettes? We're going to drink. 100% going to go down there, smoke some cigarettes and drink. Why? Because it's easier. We're already emotionally beaten down at a young age. So it's easier. So that crime, then, where does that go? 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. So the investment in the kids is not there. And they know that they're not appreciated. They're not loved. And that's what's creating so much of this.
mm-hmm. They're not feeling seen and heard. I mean, basically it's saying we don't give a fuck.
Correct.
And it's really concerning. I mean, I can't imagine who was like, hey, this is a good idea that's around. Like it doesn't make any sense. It's basically taking the onus off of having to do anything, but it's like, think about all of the negatives. So like, I know that there's more to it, and I would love if someone is like, hey, I know about this very deeply, please reach out, because I definitely am curious on so many different things. Like, what is the reasoning other than he's given up? I mean, can you imagine moving? Like, who was going to move to California? I'm sure there's a lot of people are going to move out and be like, okay, if they can't afford to like put their kids in private school, that's the other thing. The public school is going to get so fucked because everyone's going to be sending kids to private school.
Well, and then obviously you're talking about, obviously this is in San Francisco, the cost of living, in San Fran, Silicon Valley, California.
Yeah.
Is insane. It's insane anywhere, in the world right now with, inflation, everything going on. But even, even so much, in that area, completely obviously crazy. It's when you're not seen and heard, and that's why, relatability. So like you walk in those school doors and you don't relate to anybody, it's awful. Now there's zero relatability in the schools.
We don't care.
There's nobody you can turn to. There's nothing. Like, where do you're just spinning. And then when you go home, if you don't have that at home, or like, obviously very rarely do you get two dyslexics together, get married. Right. So it's usually another one, obviously we've come across this lots where the mom is dyslexic and the dad isn't. And it's making for a rough road, because dad's putting up a fight, obviously, a bigger fight in a different way. And kids know it. They just want to be appreciated. They want to be loved. That's that anybody in this world just wants to be loved. And how many people aren't, because they can't even love themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I think that we just need, it's about the understanding, but like the educational system, I mean, it's going to get, it's getting hairy.
How many people don't understand us, right? So you got the dean doesn't understand us, the principal doesn't understand us, the special ed teacher doesn't understand us. So who understands us? Nobody. So why do we become? There's no schools out there for brilliant kids, right? There's schools for bad kids. Why is that?
Mm-hmm. Now, yes, there are, because there are schools that, right, it's hard to get into. They are for like the higher, like especially in the city, there's like certain schools that are.
Is there?
Yeah,
I
know, but not like a dyslexic school or like a boarding school that's maybe cost so much, but it's like cost more. But usually that's where you get some of these boarding schools that have very intelligent people, and that's why they're being sent there. But that's different. I know what you're saying, but I just wanted to clarify because I know someone will be like, that's not true.
And I truly didn't know that there was schools, because I thought that's what the AP classes and
Yes.
private schools were for. So I had no idea that there was actual schools for super smart kids, because I'm obviously on the super dumb side, so I didn't know that existed. But
and I don't know if
my point to that was,
yes, I know.
Yeah, my point was that why do we have so many schools for bad kids? We're not bad. We're misunderstood
from an early age, and that's what creates when you don't have the understanding and you're not seen and heard and you're brushed under. I will say there was a conversation in my house, and I'm not going to get specific, but it was very interesting talking about what some kids were able to get away with when they were in school because the teachers didn't. And it was very eye-opening. I was like, oh my God, 100% they knew that this is what was going on. And they're like, yep, they never acknowledged it. And it was like this group of kids were like, yeah, because they didn't care. They just wanted to push us out, get us out.
You can't acknowledge something you don't understand. That's relatability, right? Understanding. I didn't know, I didn't see the signs of anxiety. I didn't see the signs of suicide. You can't see signs you don't understand.
Mm-hmm.
So the foundation is, got to teach before we can change.
So go to sopalfoundation.org. You can see the PSA, but you can also see all the events that are coming up and what we're doing. And we're going to do another episode, but we have a new partnership that has been launched, which is really exciting.
Yeah.
But again, that will be for another episode. So I'm gonna say it. You know what I say every single time: like, rate, review, and share. You don't know who needs to hear this, and if anyone has more information about this, we would love for you to reach out, and you can do that. You can do that in many different places, but you can do bsopal at sopalfoundation.org. You can also ping us in our Instagrams. They're all over the place. Ping, yes.
Ping.
DM.
Ping. You just definitely showed your age. Ping.
Ping.
You grew up with the phone on the wall with a long cord, so you could walk around the house and talk.
The
rotary phone.
Yeah. Oh, I love that rotary phone. We had a red one. And if you did it wrong, you were like, fuck.
Break your finger.
Yeah, totally. All right. Well, thanks for that. We'll see you guys for another episode for Word Blindness, Dyslexia Exposed.